Yo, guys, what's up, and welcome back to the Marvelous Chats podcast. The Acolyte finale this week. I'm interested to kind of see what people think. I'm getting, I don't know, I'm being quite vocal about it on Twitter, which I know is my own fault, but I'm getting a lot of hate on Twitter for it, for my views, because I'm saying that it's bad. But honestly, if you think this show is good, I don't know what to tell you, because it is absolutely awful. And I don't, why people are saying, that it's bad. Like, if you think it's bad, it's just because you're misogynistic or all this bollocks. No, it's just a fucking shit story, shit character, shit acting. You know what I mean? And it's just in the finale as well. Like, they dangled like Plagueis at us, they dangled Yoda at us. It felt desperate in the last episode, and I don't know if it was done that way on purpose in a kind of like plea to get season 2. I don't really know. Like, honestly, it wouldn't fucking surprise me if this did come back for season 2. It's definitely the lowest rated Star Wars TV show. And I think even if you were to take all the view botting and shit out of it, or the review botting, should I say, I still think it sits on a fucking 5 out of 10 at the best. You know what I mean? Like, so honestly, the show is terrible, but I thought Andor was terrible as well, and they got season 2. So honestly, it wouldn't surprise me. What did you think of the finale? Like, did you hate it as much as I did?
It wasn't like I didn't hate it, but I didn't really care for it. It was like I feel like hating it or liking it is like, either way, it's both kind of a positive in my opinion. But like, I'm wholly indifferent. I did not care. I just like it reached a point of like, I just don't care anymore. Everything that you try to do, everything that you try to set it up for, all these revelations that came about, it just all flatlined. And for people that were calling you misogynistic for thinking that it's a horrible show, they really don't understand the underlying meaning behind a lot of the things that occurred in this finale. You could take a lot out of this as well, and it could be very much like a conspiracy kind of situation. And what I mean by that is that a lot of underlying feelings were brought into the finale, in which like I came to the realization that the story was telling a weird kind of thing to it. And I could be wrong. I could absolutely be wrong, but it just felt kind of gross by the end of it.
I would like you to expand, because I feel like I know what you're talking about, but I want to be 100%.
So the people that were saying like, oh, you're misogynistic, I think they're kind of blinded by the fact that this is a very predatory show.
Right.
It's very, very predatory. If you go through it, Soul wanting to take the kids against their mother's will, Soul wanting to justify his means for taking the kids, using his emotions, putting them in play, it's very predatory sounding. And I know that could be very like misread or misunderstood, but that's kind of how I took it. Because by the season finale, it's like he didn't want to admit that he was emotionally wanting to take the kids, and not just that, but specifically Osha.
Yeah, like I think he does mention that he has like a connection to her, and I think Carrie-Anne Moss's character even says along the lines of like, you're emotionally attached to her, and he's like, I'm not emotionally attached to her, but then literally his last words to her was, I love you, before he gets choked to death with the Force. So, and again, I don't know if that's I love you like a child, or I love you like a woman. I don't know. Again, he picked her up when he was 8. If that is the case, that he fell in love with her, that is very strange.
It's fucking weird.
It's weird. I think there's definitely, and I think this is pretty obvious, but there was definitely an agenda in the show to make the Jedi look like the bad guys, 100%. You know what I mean? This show was definitely, you were supposed to root for the bad guys, 100%. I don't think anyone can argue that fact. The fact that, the Jedi are just seen to be liars the whole time, they're covering up murders. And like, if you just take a step back and actually think about the show and actually what happened, I don't think the Jedi were wrong in anything that they did in that show. Now, except for Torben. I think Torben poked the bear. He probably shouldn't have. And again, I don't how he went on to, after the events of this show, how he went on to go back to Coruscant, train to become a Jedi Knight, and then on to become a Jedi Master in the space of 6 years, and then take a vow of silence, just get guilt stricken after 6 years and go into a 10-year silence. It doesn't make any sense. I'm sorry. Like, please, if anyone can make that make sense to me, I'm open ears. Please talk to me in the comments. Let me know. But I cannot make sense of that decision. Torben, for the 6 years that followed this show, went on, trained to become a master, which I presume is the hardest thing in the galaxy to do. Now, again, I don't know if 1,000 years of peace in the Jedi Order made it very easy to become a master. I think, again, this needs to be explained further, but how some of these people in this show became Jedi Masters is beyond me, because what I understand to be a Jedi Master is like the likes of, Luke Skywalker, Obi-Wan Kenobi, all these, Qui-Gon Jinn, Mace Windu, all these guys who are very wise and powerful characters. They're the ones who become the Jedi Masters. Like, and even the chosen one, Anakin, I know he was young, but he's told by the council, you're not going to become a master. We'll put you on the council, but you're not a master. So, like, it's like, and if you can't make Anakin Skywalker a master, and again, I understand why they made that decision. It's because, Palpatine was pulling the strings and stuff. But at the same time, you're looking at who is highly regarded, the best swordsman apart from Mace Windu in the universe, and he's the best pilot. And, there's all these things that he's the chosen one and blah, blah, blah. Like, if anyone should be a master, I know he's young, like he's like 23 in Revenge. But I think, if you're going to make the argument for somebody becoming a master, I think he's up there. And especially now when you see all these people who were masters 100 years before him, they're all terrible. Like, you know what I mean? I just don't understand it. Like, all the Jedi appear to be really fucking stupid on the show. They don't understand how to do simple tasks, it seems. They need Basil, the fucking little weasel thing, to track May and Osha.
Which by the way, that's a toy scheme. Like, clearly they put him out there to be a toy.
It's so stupid, bro. Like, and even like, again, I couldn't believe in the finale when there was like, do you remember when they find Soul's dead body? Spoiler alert. Spoiler alerts, by the way. But when they find Soul's dead body, there's about 20 Jedi Knights. I think I can't remember the Green Lady's name, but she says to the young Jedi in the thing, assemble as many knights as you can and follow me to the planet. So I presume that everybody that's there is a Jedi Knight. Mm-hmm. So again, that's like Obi-Wan level up until like episode 3. You know what I mean? So it's like, you got to think that these guys, they got to be able to fight. They got to be smart. They got to know the Force. All these guys, like, so between 20 of them, they can't use the Force to find May and Osha, who are 5 minutes down the road. But Basil can sniff them out. And the stranger, Chimere, is able to find them with ease. And he goes to the tree and he's like, if I can track you, the Jedi can track you. And then the very next second, you cut to Basil running through the fucking forest and 20 Jedi just following him blindly, not knowing where they're going. I just couldn't believe what I was seeing, man. Like, it's awful. I know when you come around to episode 3, and I've seen a lot of kind of back and forth with the fan base online, but, there's people trying to defend this show saying like, well, the Jedi were blinded in the prequels. They couldn't see like Palpatine's plans and he was sitting in front of them the whole time. And it's like, that's kind of different. And if it's not different, explain to us why the Force is clouded right now. You know what I mean? They haven't explained anything. And, at least in the prequels, you knew it was Palpatine. Like, he's the fucking Sith Lord. He is like one of the most powerful Sith Lords of all time. And if you watch those 9 movies in the saga, you know that he eventually goes on to like regenerate and come back to life and so on. So like, obviously he's the Sith Lord. But in this show, there's no explanation as to why the Jedi don't know what's going on. It doesn't make any sense, man. Like, how does Yoda, he's on like, they call it the Grand Council. How does Yoda not know what's going on? There's been like 20 Jedi Knights and Masters killed in this show. There's Soul, who's a Jedi Master for the Council, who is more conflicted than fucking Anakin Skywalker by the looks of it, because he can't make a decision up. He's living in guilt. He's in love with his Padawan, or his ex-Padawan. Like, how does Yoda not sense the conflict in him? He's walking around Coruscant. Like, towards the start of the show, we see him training younglings. So it's not as if he's been out in space, like on missions for the whole time. We saw him in the Jedi Temple. How is he walking around the Jedi Temple more conflicted than Anakin Skywalker, and so like Yoda doesn't go, "Hey Saul, can we have a chat?" Because like even in the prequels, you'll see Anakin always goes to Yoda for guidance. How do I do this? How do I do that? And Yoda's always like, you need to give up the things you love the most, because Yoda knows. He's obviously in love with Padme. Like they don't say it, but they do know. You know what I mean? It's implied
Of
that they know.
course.
And
Yeah.
then even like when Anakin kills the Sand People, Yoda gets the vision straight away. He sees it happen. You know what I mean? So it's like, and that happened across the galaxy. Like the Tatooine is like in the outer rim. So it's like, you know what I mean? You're in the outer rim, and fucking Yoda's in Coruscant in the capital, and he senses Anakin doing all that. So you're telling me he can't sense May and Ocean, the Stranger, and all this sort of stuff? And I know the Stranger has the Cortosis mask on. That's fair enough. That's kind of an explanation. Fair enough. But like he's not like sensing all these people getting slain by an unknown person that he can't sense in the Force. It just doesn't make any sense to me, man.
See, part of me thinks that when it comes to Sith and Jedi, I think the way the Force works, it's possibly on a different scale. Maybe they're able to hide it in the sense that, like, the dark side of the Force, you don't really want to search for that in particular within your mind. I don't know, like maybe I'm just kind of throwing something out in the open, but like the way I see it, like Palpatine is strong enough to probably know how to mask his scent
Yeah,
essentially, like and
that's
being
different. That's different, though. I know what you're
right.
saying. I know what you're
Yeah,
saying, and I think that is different. And what you got to take into consideration here is in the timeline, there's been 1,000 years of peace. The Jedi
right,
have had nothing to do, and now all of a sudden there's a dark presence in the universe, and Jedi are being slain by lightsabers and stuff. And you're telling me that there isn't a blip in the Force? Yoda, who
yep,
sits, he's like 850 or something. Yoda sits there, he meditates all day in the Grand Council room. You're telling me that he's not like sensing his masters and knights dying, and like
right, yeah,
seeing visions of them getting slain by red lightsabers and stuff? You know, I just don't like. Again, if this is the story you want to tell, fine, but tell us why. Tell us how. How is
yeah,
all this stuff happening? And
exactly.
again, we go to the finale and we see Plagueis hiding in the cave. And again, I'm going to put my hands up straight away. I'm not going to jump on the Plagueis train. I know a lot of people online are disgusted at this appearance of Plagueis and so on because they're big Plagueis fans. I'm not a Plagueis fan. I never read the novels. I don't really know. I know the bare minimum about him, but I don't really care, right? So when people see him appearing in a cave and he's creeping on May and Osha, and people are kind of putting two and two together, saying like, "Oh, well, this is obviously how he learned to create life in the forces through these witches and May and Osha and the Stranger and all." People are like, "Oh my god, this is terrible. This has a knock-on effect to the prequels and so on." I don't really care, like Plagueis, he's literally called Plagueis the Wise, and how the story's meant to go is that he is Palpatine's master, and Palpatine kills him because he finds out that he's able to create life. And literally, what Plagueis does in the time between this show and episode one is he figures out how, or sorry, what he doesn't actually successfully do it, but what he's trying to do is he's trying to create the perfect dark side user from the Force.
Mhm.
And basically he fails to do it. He can't do it. But Palpatine is his Padawan, and he learns everything from Plagueis. So how to, you know, be undercover and in the public eye, like Plagueis in the novel and stuff. He's a very well known man in the galaxy, and he's very wealthy and so on. And this obviously all makes sense as to how Palpatine learned to do all this stuff. But in this show, it's like we see him and he's just hiding in a cave, just creeping around, watching people. And it's like that's not really the Plagueis that the fans really know or like expected to see. And I think that's why a lot of people are upset about it. Me personally, I don't really care, you know. And honestly, I really dislike this show. But with the way that the show ended, I'm like, yeah, fuck it. If you want to make more of it and answer some of these questions that I've just brought up, I'm down to see how you do it. But
Mhm.
I'm not going to be excited about the show. I'm not sitting here hashtagging on Twitter going, renew the Acolyte or bring season two on or whatever. But, if it does happen, I'll watch it, of course. But I think if they do get a season two, they have a lot of fucking work. They have a lot of things to answer. There's a lot of angry fans out there. I think it's sitting on a 3.4 on IMDb. It's got like 15% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's not a good show. I gave it a 2 out of 10 on IMDb for the entire the entirety of the season. I think it started okay. The first 2 episodes were kind of like mid 5 out of 10s for me, and then it just fell apart. Episode 3 was just horrendous. 4 was terrible as well. 5 was probably the best episode of the series. Just for the action, which I know a lot of people are like, oh, you just like watching lightsaber fights. Yeah, it's Star Wars. I do like watching lightsaber fights. I do like watching Jedi and Sith fight and the Force being used and so on.
Yeah.
Kymir was probably the best part of the show. I feel very sorry for the actor because I think he did a phenomenal job with the shit that he was presented. And the actor who played Saul, who everyone online is just calling him Squid Game guy because he was in Squid Game, but that dude, that poor guy, didn't even know English. He learned English for the role, and I don't even think he can speak English. I think he just learned the scripts, so he can't actually speak English, as far as I know, or very, very little English. And he went and obviously phonetically probably learned the scripts. So I have nothing but respect for that man as well. And I just feel sorry for him because, again, he put on a fucking spectacular performance. And I think his character was probably done fucking dirty as well. I know he was conflicted in the Force and so on, but for the show to end and for them to just blame everything on him and do a cover up, it's not the Jedi way at all. You know what I mean? Like, it's outrageous. It's outrageous that they did that. Like, they just blame him. They call him a flawed man. And like, the entire Senate or whatever are sitting there just going, okay, so it was just a rogue Jedi then? Cool, yeah. And like, what? Yoda's going to hear about this now? Like,
well, then they covered that up. They essentially
Yoda,
covered that up and making episode 1 and episode 2 stating that it's been peaceful for 1,000 years. That means that they've been covering shit up, which is fucking weird.
That's another thing, yeah. Again, as we are meant to understand the lore, it was that there was no conflict, there was no Sith showing up or anything like that. Now, if they want to try and talk and say, okay, there was like different issues within those 1,000 years with Rogue Jedi and so on, again, that's a story that you're going to need to really fucking explain yourself if you're going to do that. Like, show us the notes, you know what I mean? Like, show your work. But as the novels went in Legends, and how it was to be perceived before the events of episode 1, it was that there was 1,000 years of peace, and that's what the big fucking reveal of the Phantom Menace was, is that holy shit, there's a Sith Lord, there's a Padawan or an apprentice, they're working in the background and they make themselves known, and boom, we're going to reveal ourselves to the Jedi. It's, now we get our revenge for the last 1,000 years. That's the line, that's the story. So yeah, if you're going to turn around and say, actually, that there's been Sith, but we've been lying and saying they're like kind of rogue Jedi and stuff, it's like you got a lot of work to do to kind of convince me anyway of that. I don't know, maybe other people will just accept that, but that's kind of bullshit in my opinion. You know what I mean? I don't know, but yeah, man, I just, the fact that they brought Yoda in at the very last second as well, like, it's a lose-lose situation, right? Because 2 things are going to happen. Either she's going to tell Yoda the truth, right? So Yoda finds out everything that happened in the show, and because when we get to episode 1, they know nothing about divergences and the people being created in the Force, and Anakin is the first one that they see. Yoda, if he knows about the events of this show, he's lying when it comes to episode 1, and he's part of the cover-up. So that is horrendous. That is horrendous if that's the case.
This is what drives it. This is what drives the whole situation to like get into the gutter. It's like they're literally rewriting things and trying to retcon it as like, oh, shit's actually gone down. It's just people are covering it up, and I hate that. Absolutely hate that.
And especially when it's Yoda, he's the Grand Master. He is the leader of the Jedi. Like, if anything, he should be the shining star, the one who like follows the Jedi code the best. You know what I mean? Like, he is the example. He is what everyone else strives to be. He is the wise one, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, he shouldn't be complicit in a cover up and one of his Jedi masters being blamed for 20 murders and all this crazy shit. It's awful, bro. Yeah,
if it was a knight or a Padawan, like
the Grand Master covering up a Jedi Master, or Jedi Master's fucking bullshit, right? So that's one scenario where it's a lose. And then the second lose is that I think her name is Venestra. Maybe I'm getting her name wrong. If she walks in, the green character, the green lady.
Oh, Roa.
Anyway,
it's like Roa or something like that. It's
whatever her name is.
Yeah, it's fucking weird.
It's irrelevant.
It's Ro.
Yeah, either she walks, and then second scenario, she walks into the room, she says, Master, I have to tell you something. And she lies to Yoda. And Yoda doesn't question her, doesn't sense any lies or conflict Vernestra, yeah, I thought that was her name. Thank you, Griff. But I think that's
Oh,
her
you're
like
talking about
surname.
first name. No,
So
that's her
whatever,
first name.
whatever. Sorry, yeah, whatever. That I just yeah, I've heard people in reviews calling her Vernestra. I thought, but anyway, yeah. So either then she goes in, tells a lie to the Grandmaster, and he doesn't sense it, which again is just number one. How does Yoda not know that he's being lied to? How does he not? When the second she walks into the room, he should be able to like read her mind and be able to kind of fucking see everything that she sees, sort of shit. Like, you know, that's how powerful Yoda is. And you're gonna tell me that she's gonna walk in, tell a bullshit lie about Soul, and then Soul's gonna like Yoda's gonna be like, hang on a second, how did I not know about any of this? And he's gonna like look out into the force and like not see any of this happen. I don't know, bro. To me, I don't understand. I can't see a win scenario of her walking into the room and telling Yoda anything. I don't
Yeah,
see a win at all.
it like it's just like we just said. It doesn't make sense whatsoever. Like talking to him at this point, it's you know if they had said in episode 1 or 2 that like we haven't had like aside like, if they had said aside from maybe a few internal conflicts, we have not seen any Sith or like dark force like forces of the dark activity like within 1,000 years, then we could possibly say that maybe there was a few hiccups here and there and then make stories of that. But because they've said clearly nothing has happened for 1,000 years, it really is putting it out that the Jedi are bad.
Well, again, and to add on to what you're saying, and which is what angered so many people after episode 3 or 4, was that they put Kiari Mundi in the show, and he has the famous line in episode 1 when Qui-Gon Jinn says, I was attacked by a Sith Lord," and Kiari Mundi, a Sith Lord? They've been extinct for 1,000 years. He was in the room when they were talking about the whole thing. He was there. So we know he's lying. He was standing beside Osha, who was created by the Force. And you're going to tell me that in the 8 years that Osha trained to be a Jedi in the temple, like nobody or she didn't tell anybody, or nobody got a bit of a strange feeling from her in the Force. Her metachlorian count, her M count was so high that nobody kind of went, yo, what's up with this fucking Padawan here? She's starting the training fucking 4 years too late. And she's like, she's insanely powerful with the Force. What the fuck is going on? I don't know. And they kind of,
it's so
I think they,
broken right now.
I think they tried to explain it that maybe the twins were the most powerful when they were together, which maybe might explain that. But again, they didn't actually explain this. But I think maybe what they were trying to portray is that the two girls are most powerful when they're side by side, and they're most powerful when they're on the planet, because the Virgins was the planet itself. I think that's what the explanation is. So it's like if they're on the planet and they're together, they're at their most powerful. But
Mm-hmm.
would the Jedi not land on the planet and realize, holy shit, I'm powered up here. What's going on? Like, they're going around with the fucking metal detectors trying to find divergences in the Force, and they're testing like samples of the grass and all this shit. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, guys, do we not realize, are you not walking around this planet going, man, I'm leveled up here, like I'm feeling like more connected to the Force than ever? I just feel like they needed to explain this, like they didn't. Like, I don't know, man. It's so weird, man. There's so many and I'm probably forgetting so many of the stupid plot points, but um it just so many times in the show I was just like, this is just fucking bullshit. This doesn't make any
Well,
sense. And as
well,
well, sorry, one more thing before I let
sure,
you talk. Sorry,
sure.
the scene with Basil where he like betrayed Soul and like destroyed the ship. Why did he do that? Was that like, did he not want Soul to turn to the dark side by killing May or something? Like, is that what he did? Again, please explain what's happening. Like, you know what I mean? Like they're having this cool chase through the rings of the planet, which I presume is where most of the budget went because it looked pretty fucking good. But they have this big cool fucking battle, and then it's like they pull into the planet, and it's like, May's like running away from Soul, but like escapes to the planet where they were going anyway.
Mm-hmm.
It just, there's so many there's so many plot holes, man. It was so poorly written and so poorly put together. And then, like, you know, Soul leaves the planet out of hyperspace, and literally the second they shoot off, the Jedi show up. Like, they would have had to like scan space and stuff, and then notice that there was a ship where they were about to come out of hyperspace with. Like, you know, they do
Mhm.
that. Like, the ships calculate all that shit, and then would they not have realized? Oh, that's Soul's ship that's just gone off there 1 second ago. And then Soul's like, we're going back to the planet, and then they turn around to go back, and the Jedi are back in Coruscant again, and then they have to turn around and go back again. Have they not
All
crossed
over the
paths like four
place.
times now? Oh, dude, it's so painful. And like, honestly, you know, if you enjoy this show, power to you, because I can't. I'm a Star Wars simp here, man. Like, I've loved Star Wars since I was 6 years old, and I just cannot get behind this show. I just don't understand. I don't get how people like it. And I feel like if you're defending the show online, you're not even defending the show itself. You're just defending Star Wars because people are not liking it. You're fighting them just to be on the right side of it. You know what I mean? Like, I really
One
think that, like, I don't understand how you can defend
right.
this show. How can you
And
defend
you
the writing? How can you defend the acting? I'm sorry.
it,
It's terrible.
it's herd mentality, dude.
Exactly.
A lot of the times, the people that are trying to defend it haven't even watched the show,
Yeah, true.
and
True.
those who have watched the show are blinded by the fact that, you know, they think that they're having this moment with these female heroes, which they're absolutely not heroes at this point. Like, they're conflicted characters who are being manipulated by both sides of the force, essentially.
Mhm.
It's fucked up. I don't know why they wrote the story this way. I don't think it belongs in the Star Wars universe whatsoever,
Mhm.
because we've never had anything of that sort,
Yeah.
and it's just a really awkward situation. The whole like situation with Soul, and wanting to help Osha and May like get out of that situation. It was absolutely none of their business. And it's a witch's coven. And what were they going to do? We don't know what they were going to do, which is the dumbest thing, to kill everyone and not explain what the hell they were going to do in the first place. Like, just because they were dark magic users, and they said dark magic, they weren't talking about the force in its entirety. Apparently there was magic involved, which I think would have been much cooler to just call it magic. um
Yeah.
you know
I
it
yeah, I think, sorry,
well
just to go, I do think that they were using the Force, but I think it's they perceived it in a different way, and I think that's a cool thing too. You know, I don't
yeah,
think the Force should be just for Jedi to use or whatever. I think if people can figure out how to use it in a different way, because it is explained that the Force is everywhere, it's around us completely. Like, there's no way that only like Jedi's can use it and Sith. You know what I
right.
mean? I do kind of find that interesting, but again, they're not explaining it in a proper way. They're not explaining it. You know, I think if you're going to do flashback episodes, show us the Coven. Do an episode on how the Coven got to that planet. What happened to them to go to that planet? We just hear that they're in exile and they're running from the Republic or whatever. Why? What did you do? How did you get
Yeah,
there? Tell us, show us.
exactly.
You know, how did the couple, the two the heads of the witches, the parents to the kids, how did you become a couple? You know, why not tell us that love
Yeah, how
story? I
did you
don't.
meet?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. How did you create the children is an even more important point, because again, we still don't know. And even the horn-headed mother even says, what are the Jedi going to do when they find out how you made them? It's like, we still don't even fully know how that happened, and we
yeah,
may never see another episode of this show again. And this show has come in and started a fire in the Star Wars lore, and they could potentially be just walking away and we might never see an episode of it again. Like, you know, and if that does happen, we have to accept this show as canon because Disney say it is. And now the next time you watch episode one, you have all these questions to, you know, how did this happen? How did that happen? Where did Plagueis go? All this stuff, like, you know what I mean? How does Yoda not know? How, if he does, why is he lying? You know, why is Kiari Mundi lying? Why is he saying all this stuff about peace for 1,000 years? You know what I mean? There's so many fucking questions that I nearly want a season two because I want them to try and fix it or potentially make it worse, and then I don't know what I'll do then, but you know, at least give them the chance to try and fix what they've done, because they have done, like, I know a lot of people are like, oh, it doesn't really matter, you know, stuff gets retconned all the time, and you know, the legend stuff isn't really canon anyway. I understand that. So that's why I kind of don't give a shit about the Plagueis thing, because you know, the book that everyone loves and they say it's the best Star Wars novel ever made, they're saying is legend, so it's canon, it's not canon, so it doesn't really matter. And that's fair enough. That's fine. But if you're going to introduce one of the biggest fan favorite sits in lore, do them properly. Don't just dangle the keys and say, "Here he is. He's in the cave and he's watching the whole time, and this is how he learned about the making the twins and all." Ugh, bro, it's just painful. It's painful.
I thought,
I posted this thing in in my Discord the other day, and I'm just gonna read it out to you because it's actually hilarious. So it's a picture of May, and she's like looking at Soul, and it's like, "You killed my mother." And then Soul's trying to explain himself. And he's like, "May, you literally started a fire. The witches had their weapons drawn on us, and your mother was turning into a ghost demon. I striked her out of pure instinct. I thought she was trying to kill us, and I feared for your safety because you were turning to smoke as well. We never intended for things to end like that. All we wanted to do was a peaceful resolution, but the witches became hostile and made the situation worse. Still, I know I made a mistake, but that doesn't mean you get to go on a murder spree." And honestly, that's the plot of the show. That is the plot of the show. I know somebody made that to probably try and be funny and poke fun at the script or whatever, but that's the plot of the show right there. And in my opinion, Soul isn't wrong.
no, he's not wrong, but what he did to start everything is wrong. Essentially it was like of course it may have been instinctual, but it just also might have been a bit more emotional as well, on the level of like, she's about to disappear, I don't know what she's going to happen, I gotta kill this lady before she ends up absorbing May or something, because she for some reason she was starting to disappear. They don't explain any of that shit. It's
I
so
know.
fucking dumb.
Yeah.
It's like the worst thing you could do. Why is it that, why was May disappearing? Why would, like, what is it that they do? I don't get it. It's like, what does
Yeah.
this coven do? Why are they
Like,
exiled, and what do the who is your daddy and what
yeah.
do they do?
I love that movie, by the way. Great reference. Kindergarten Cop for anyone who can get it. But like honestly, right? Like if I have a power, right, and I'm gonna release somebody from the coven, but my power involves me turning into what looks like a demonic ghost, I'm gonna give you a heads up first. I'm gonna say, right, look, I'm gonna release Osha to you. This is what she wants. But by the way, shit's about to get weird for a minute. Please don't attack me. I'm not. I'm doing this. This isn't hostile. I'm doing this because this is what I have to do to release her or whatever. Right. So how that doesn't happen? How she just decides out of nowhere when tensions are high to do that and doesn't think she's gonna get stabbed is beyond me. Like,
Dude, it was as it's as easy as going, because May ran in. Osha's in trouble. May, the mama, what's going on? Like, kind of be like, what's the matter, dear? Like, take a moment and listen to the kid. But like, the funny thing is that for a show that is supposed to be about these two girls, uh, they don't listen to them.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
they don't give them a chance. And so like it turns into the situation of like, let's just be adults and do adult things, and like go like do some crazy shit and possibly endanger our kids in such a moment, even though they were the most important people within their lives. And
They
it's
said
just like,
They said that they were the future of the coven, and they
right,
basically just destroyed the whole coven without even thinking about it and put the kids in danger.
exactly.
It doesn't make any
It's,
sense.
yeah, it doesn't, because like the moment May ran in, all they had to do to diffuse the situation was ask what's happening, where is Osha, and then
Yeah.
like tell the Jedi, we will put this aside for now. We need to get Osha. Like, literally, kind of work together, and then like find a way to kind of escape, in the sense too.
Yeah.
Like, how cool would it have been if the coven didn't all just die in one shot, and they just managed to slip away one by
Mhm.
one or something, like, they disperse, and then
Yeah.
like while they're trying to get Osha, oh shit, all the witches are gone. So
So
like,
what's funny, again, you've made me think about this and I haven't thought about this yet, but yeah, like what was the plan, right?
yeah,
So when she started turning into a ghost and she started taking May with her, what was the plan? They were just gonna run away, and when she says I was gonna release Osha, does that mean that she was just gonna they were all gonna disappear and it's like, you take her, you can have her. But she's dying in the next room. She's like in a burning building. made of stone, by the way, but she's in a burning room. So it's like, does she not give a shit about Osha anymore? Like, she's just going to abandon her and bail with the rest of the coven. They're just going to disappear into smoke. And it's like, oh yeah, if you can save her from the burning mountain, you can have her. It's bizarre. It's a
It's
really fucking
really,
strange, really strange decision as a mother.
yep.
How she could just do that is bizarre to me. Like, I don't understand.
Yeah. If Soul had tried to attempt to move towards May, and the mother got pissed off, that's kind of like the mama bear mentality.
Mm.
Like, then I would understand that, like, kind of like, stay the hell away from my daughter.
Yeah,
Like, why couldn't you just say it like that? Like, at what point couldn't you be like, stay away from my daughter?
yeah,
Like, stay away from them. You're a fuck. Like, it literally felt like it was a predator situation. It's like, stay the fuck away from my kids.
yeah.
Like, who are you to do whatever it is that you'd like to our children? And that wasn't even the case. The case was like, we just want to know if they're force sensitive because we'd like for them to go. And so, like, the
Well,
Jedi
they
gave them a
they know
chance.
they know they're force sensitive though, because Saul
Yeah.
witnessed them using the force in the forest, and that's why Saul wants them. And I think I don't know if it's a bit of an obsession or what it is, but he notices that they are force sensitive. They know that there's a virgins on the planet, and they think, okay, the virgins must be these two children. It's like, drop everything. We need these kids. They need to become Jedis. They are, and again, I don't know. They never mentioned the prophecy of the one, but again, obviously it's the two or whatever the fuck they're going to try and say. But they never do mention the prophecy. Like, again, the second that Qui-Gon Jinn mentions virgins, the word virgins, the second he says it to the council, they're like, Mace Windu straight away. Are you talking about the prophecy? The one will the one who will bring balance to the Force. It's like, was that prophecy only made after the fact of this show? Like, you know, again, more questions. Like, we gotta move on, bro. Like, I honestly,
Well, like,
what I'll do is before. Go on, sorry.
it's so much nonsense, and I'm not trying to keep like rolling back on it, but like, why did they make this such a fucking like terminology now? The like virgins, like what would you, like, I get it, you're talking about like some sort of unnatural anomaly that occurs within the force, in which case something is created, or some sort of force energy is like localized around a person. But like, the whole point of episode 1 was to like have that uniqueness with
Yeah,
Anakin itself, and it's just a miracle. It is not called a virgin. It's a miracle that like he was just born out of nothing, as far as we know. Like, it could have been that Shmi like got with someone who was force sensitive, and then they had like a child. It could have been anything. And then there's all these speculations, like, what if it was a Sith Lord that happened again? Like, what are all these things that, like, and it's,
I think it's been explained. And I
has it.
think, yeah, I think so. And again, I don't know if this is Legends, so don't kill me in the comments if this is Legends. But
Mm,
I think what's happening is that Plagueis is trying to create the perfect dark side user. And because the Force knows that he's doing this, the Force creates Anakin as the countermeasure, because again, it has to be balanced. So Plagueis is trying to do this, and then the Force goes, I don't think so. Here's the chosen one, Anakin, to fix everything. And I think that's literally why he does have no mother. But I think they tried to explain it in one of the comics, which again, I don't know if this is actually canon now, but in one of the comics, I think it's Vader 125 or Vader 123. Um, there's a panel, you can look this up, but there's a panel where Palpatine is insinuating that he created Anakin. And
yeah.
you can see there's a panel where he's standing behind Shmi and doing some fucking force shit, and then it's like she becomes pregnant. So I don't know if they've changed it, but I think literally the Force was reacting to Plagueis's manipulation, and that's how Anakin was created. And then now I don't know if it's canon, but I think there's a thing where potentially it's Palpatine, but I don't know if that's like a dream or something. I haven't read the comics, so I don't know. I've just seen the panels.
Right. And Griff, you're right. You're right. There is no father. There really isn't. It's a manipulation from what we understand. It's a manipulation of the force within Shmi's womb to create a child
Space
out of the
Jesus.
force. Essentially, yes.
Anakin is Space Jesus, yeah.
anti-space Jesus, because he creates like this balance that, which is literally the prophecy. Like, it created balance because it
It did.
destroyed an entire civilization of Jedi to create the smallest amount of Jedi against the smallest form of Sith. It's no
Yeah.
longer thousands of them versus two. It's
Yeah.
now literally like
2v2.
2 on 2.
Yeah.
It's
Well, that was the
it's the
original idea anyway. I think
right.
they're Disney are starting to fuck with that now as well, because it's like, they're doing all these extended stories, and then now it's like, well, Cal Kestis is around and he's canon now, and Ahsoka's canon now and she's around, and Ezra Miller or Ezra Bridger is around and he's canon now as well. So it's like, technically they're making all these Jedis, but I don't know. Are they making dark side users to match it as well? I'd be curious actually to see. I do for every light side user that they're adding to the canon, are they adding a dark side user as well? Because
I
obviously
would hope so.
there's the Inquisitors, but if for every Inquisitor, is there a light side user? I don't know. I need to actually do a bit of more research on that, but I would hope that that's what they're doing, because again, of course, the Force is all about the balance, and that was the point of Anakin. And I would hope that Disney aren't adding loads of shit and making shit even worse. But I don't know. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think that they are.
Well, and then, like, even then, at the very end of Return of the Jedi, you see that Palpatine is killed.
Mhm.
He's thrown down. I'm sticking with that canon. He's thrown down. He's killed. Vader essentially is going to die on the ship. So all the remaining known Sith are gone, and the
And
only person
he's
left.
a Jedi at the very end. He does come back to the light. So, and that's
Yeah,
why he becomes a Force ghost. Again, I don't not understand. I never understood how he became a Force ghost, because he never would have got the training from Obi-Wan. But I've seen a couple of funny, like, kind of animated skits of, like, just before he dies, you see like the ghost of Obi-Wan going, "Hang on, wait a second, I gotta teach you something real quick." And it's like, that's how he learns to become a ghost. But or maybe he just, because he's the chosen one, maybe he just can naturally do it or something. Again, they've never
well,
explained that, but
I mean,
I
if he
always found
was,
those skits funny.
of course. Well, like, even if he was born of the Force, I would assume, like, at the very least he
He
could
just
become
goes
a
back to
ghost
the
just
Force.
from the get-go.
Mm.
Yeah, like, and it kind of makes it more interesting now that I think about it. If he's created out of nothing and he creates, Luke and Leia, and essentially, like, the next generation of children, like, of course they're going to be like massively powerful, because they were
That's
literally
Yeah,
born from the Force that was born from the Force, in the
exactly.
sense.
That's why Luke is so powerful. Luke is feared in the galaxy because it's like he is the son of Vader, and he wiped out the Emperor and Vader and the Sith, and basically restored, like, got rid of he killed the entire Empire, like, one man. So, like, he is feared in the galaxy because it's like, oh shit, like, this guy is invincible, basically,
Right.
and that's cool. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you go to the Acolyte, and then it's like, you just ruined everything that they had tried to make so unique for that situation.
Mhm.
It just felt so undone. And if it's true that Palpatine manipulated Shmi's womb, then essentially the Coven knew how to do that themselves, which that would have been cool to understand. Maybe
Yeah.
we should have had some sort of, like, backstory within this story, like, even further behind, when the children were coming around. Like, it it
Yeah.
it, it would have been much more interesting that way. Then we would have been like, oh shit, okay, so that's pretty interesting. And then, of course, work out all the kinks here and there. But ultimately, it's an obvious story based upon the fact that, like, the light side and the dark side swapped places, essentially.
Mhm.
May redeemed herself essentially by giving herself up, and also being having her memory wiped. Osha swapped to the dark side because she all of a sudden her emotions are now in play, because she was uh holding back this whole time.
Mhm.
And it's like they're of the same mind, apparently, so it's like it's
They're
hard.
one person, yeah, apparently.
It's really hard to gauge on that. Then, like, it's so weird, because then you have the angry person that should have been part of the dark side is now uh essentially on the light side of things, like, she's captured. And then the dark side character is or the light side character just happens to become dark because she's pissed now, because
Yeah.
she finally learns the truth, which if it was really played out and the story and the writing was done well enough, they would have had dialogue that said like, search your feelings, you know this to be true, because that's something that you hear in Star Wars a lot. Search your feelings. Like, it's a Sith thing. It's like, find your emotions, feel that thought
Mhm,
that you've been thinking this whole time, your fear in knowing that a Jedi murdered your mother. And
mhm.
like, that would have been such a cool moment, especially with like Chimere, to like say something like that. But it just, it still feels like this weird situation. And I think Chimere is on the same situation as Soul. I think he just really wanted to have someone to train and someone to bond with, and that's why you see him holding her hand. It's just, it's that moment where he's like, I'm not going to let you go, I'm with you. I don't know if it's just because like he wants her to feel her emotions and to understand that she's not alone, or if it's like literally just the hand showing like, I've got you now, kind of like I won in the situation.
Yeah, I don't know what the vision is for the characters, but again, we may never find out. If we do, I would love an expansion on this whole situation. Really, again, you're talking about like potentially, Palpatine like being the father of Anakin technically, and it's like, if that is the case, are we to understand that Plagueis spied on the witches, found out how to do it, and he taught Palpatine? Palpatine created Anakin. Like, are they going to change the lore? Like, is that going to be the canon going forward? And if that is the canon going forward, like, I don't know if everybody's going to like that. A lot of people don't like this show, and if this show becomes such an anchor in the lore and the canon is like, I hate it. I hate it personally. Like, I hate that potentially these witches are so involved in the creation of the Skywalker saga. Like, it's just painful to accept. Um, and I'm not a fan of it. I hope it's not true, but again, there's so many questions coming out at the end of it. Yeah, I don't know how to feel. Like, I we do got to move on. We're nearly live an hour and we haven't spoken about anything else. We're still on the Acolyte, so um, obviously it's a hot topic for me. I'm a big Star Wars fan, so look, I kind of had a feeling we were going to talk about it for a while. But what I'd like to try and end this conversation about this show on some positives, if it is possible. I thought the bleeding of the kyber crystal was kind of cool. I know, if you don't know, um, when Lucas was in charge of Star Wars, he created it in a certain way that the dark side crystals were synthetic. They were created. They're not like natural. They're not found. The Jedi's used to go into the caves and find the crystals and make their lightsabers, but the Sith didn't have a way of doing that. So in George's story, they were synthetic. They were created. The red blades, it was unnatural, so they had to be created. Whereas now in the Disney canon, you bleed Jedi's crystal to become dark, and we saw that for the first time in live action. I thought it was pretty cool. Um, we saw it again. If you played Jedi Survivor, you had probably seen they bled a crystal in that show, in that game, which was pretty cool as well. And it's been in the comics as well. In the new Vader comics, you see Vader going around killing Jedi, and basically he kills a Jedi. I can't remember the guy's name who he kills, but he like finally, after many attempts, successfully bleeds a crystal and gets his red lightsaber. But for I think for Anakin, it's like, he's very conflicted, and that's why he couldn't bleed it easily. Whereas May just does it in the heartbeat. Like, Osha does it in a heartbeat. She just bleeds it straight away, and it's like, I kind of I kind of hate how easy it was for her, knowing how difficult it was for Anakin to do. But I don't know. And again, I think if anything, like, after Vader accepts his fate, becomes the apprentice to the Emperor, I think he is a Sith. Like, he's left the Jedi behind after the events of Episode 3. He's pissed off with the Order, and he's basically killed everybody. I think, and Padme's dead, so it's like there's no return. He's done. He doesn't know that he has any kids, so he has nothing to hang on to. I would think that would be easy enough for him to bleed a crystal. Whereas Osha, who was good 10 minutes before she turned, like, she just found out that Saul killed her mother, and that's what turned her to the dark side. Like, straight away, she bled a crystal in 2 seconds. Like, so while it was cool to see, I think there's plot holes as there is with everything else in this show. But at least it was a cool scene to watch.
Yeah, the way I see it, Finto, and I know that like I know we haven't talked about this in depth yet, but uh, I think that Anakin's way of like taking such a long time to bleed the crystal is way cooler
Yeah. Oh
than
yeah.
just outright having it change.
Mhm.
So like I wouldn't say that it ruins it or anything. It just but it shows like how much Anakin was still holding on to that piece of himself, because even when he was killing all the younglings and everything, like anyone in the Jedi Council or like in the temple itself, um he was crying, dude. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
he was teared up. Like you see teardrops. You see that he doesn't really want to do this, but he's willing to do whatever it takes to prevent the death of Padme, which in turn, like he doesn't realize is that he's the reason why, because
Mhm.
she's so stressed out from everything that he's doing and not understanding why he wants to do what he wants to do, because he won't express his feelings to the fullest. um it's this huge confliction that creates like this atmosphere of like, oh shit, like he really is holding on as much as he can.
Yeah.
um Whereas Osha, who gives a shit? Literally,
Facts.
literally, I was happy a moment ago, you killed my mom, now I'm upset, and
And now I'm a Sith fucking
now I'm
apprentice
evil.
straight away. Yeah.
Watch me get evil in just a
Yeah.
minute.
I'm gonna choke you to death. I saw loads of people online as well, like saying, like, "Oh my god, the first force choke." I'm like, "What?" It's like, do people think that
Well,
that was like the
fucking
first force choke? Because like, you know, the way Kymir's like, she does know how to kill a Jedi without using a weapon. And it's like, well, you're not. You're using the force as a weapon. Like it's,
right.
you know, it's like, are they trying to insinuate that this is the very first force choke ever? Like, go back and fucking play any of the games, like you know. And I know this is Legends now, but it's like the Old Republic. Like you play as Jedi and Sith, and they go around force choking the shit out of each other all the time. Like so, it's like it. Oh, she didn't create force choke. You know, it's like what? I don't understand. Like some people, I think I don't know if they're watching this show properly. Like I just don't understand. Or they're like maybe they're watching it, but they've never seen anything else. They're brand new Star Wars fans. Fair enough. Like, but yeah, that's not the case. Like she did not just create force choke. Like I saw people saying that online. I'm like, do you genuinely believe this is the first ever force choke in thousands of years of Sith and Jedi? Like, no, obviously not.
It's the first visual recording of it. It's got to be the first one, right?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Like there haven't been Jedi for like thousands and thousands of years. Like,
We haven't seen, Star Wars The Old Republic, Knights of the Old Republic, where clearly they're doing force choke. No, that was just unnamed.
yeah,
She coined it.
yeah, yeah. It was her. She did it. Ugh,
Dude,
I don't know.
but dude, like just thinking about it, uh, is there any firsts with this character whatsoever? And the only thing I can think of is like, well, she's the first, person to just go from light to dark side in like in a minute. I
Yeah,
guess so. It's like,
is that because like again they're one person split in two, so there has to be like a kind of evil one and a good one. So they like wipe May and make her the good one. So it's like Ocean now has to be the evil one. Like, do
yeah,
they
that
have? Is that yin and yang? Like literally, like they can't have two evil ones or two good ones.
exactly. And
Yeah,
so
I don't
that
know.
that was the whole, because if you
Okay,
it's
what's
so
up?
fucking weird when you go through it and you realize like May was so pissy at the beginning,
Hmm.
and then when she gets older, she's so nice to Osha. She's so friendly. She's
Yeah,
so
yeah.
happy. Like
You're alive.
when she should have been like, I should have killed you a long time ago or something. Like fucking give me some emotion.
Yeah,
And then Osha is like, oh my god, I just want to join the Jedi. And then like all this shit goes on and she's sad, and then she grows up and now she's indifferent and she's
yeah,
upset. So like clearly you could see like the swap that they were trying to portray, but it was
yeah,
just done so poorly.
yeah.
But I wanted to kind of conclude by saying one of the best moments I would say in the show is the fact that when they were talking about killing a Jedi without the use of a lightsaber,
Mhm.
without a weapon, essentially, it wasn't like it took a minute, and eventually I figured it out. But for anyone that was surprised by it, the revelation is that it's not May that's going to do it. it's OSHA, but because they're the same person, it's still technically, them completing the training and becoming the true acolyte, essentially. And
Yeah.
I think that's really well done, but preceding everything else, it kind of like made it so lackluster.
Well, do you remember to go back to the very start of the episode when Osha's wearing the Cortosis helmet and she has the vision of the future and she says, I know where May is. I've seen her kill Soul. She's actually watching herself kill Soul, but she doesn't even know it's herself. She doesn't even know it's her that does it, but she's actually viewing herself in the future killing Soul, but she
Yeah,
doesn't even know it's her. So that's how connected they are. That's how much of the one person that they are is that they don't even know the other person. They can't differentiate from each other, which I suppose everyone online's been kind of giving out about the actress's acting. It's like she has no difference between the two characters, but now it's like, well, actually, maybe she was directed that way because they are the exact same person.
right.
So I'll give her that, bit of relief. But
Give her
she
give
still
her
was.
give her that
Yeah.
little gold star.
I still think she didn't act great in the show, but at least now it makes sense, you know?
Yep. And I mean, I think it could have been better though. Like, I think I agree with you though. Like, I think it's still kind of, a little bit lackluster. You can't just have. I don't know. Like, I guess I can't explain it that well. It's just. Let's move on. I'm done.
Yeah. Andre says, you've been talking about, you wanted to conclude this for the last 30 minutes. Yeah, I think you're right. Andre, let's move on.